przekonany, że w obu tych obszarach będziemy rozwijać naszą współpracę.
한국이 폴란드에 한국형 차세대 원자력 발전소 APR-1400을 수출하는 계획이 진행되고 있습니다. 지난 9일에는 한국수력원자력이 폴란드 신규 원전 사업을 위한 부지 조사에 착수했는데요. 한수원은 한전기술, 두산에너빌리티 등 국내 원전 관련 기업과 부지 조사단을 구성해 신규 원전 부지인 퐁트누프 발전소를 방문했습니다. 조사단은 폴란드 신규 원전 사업을 추진하고 있는 민간 발전사인 제2팩 실무자들과 함께 냉각 용수량, 전력망, 환경 등 부지 적합성을 확인했습니다. 한수원은 폴란드 정부와 사업 관계자 및 현지 공급사 등 200여 명이 참여한 가운데 APR-1400을 소개했습니다. 또 13곳의 폴란드 현지 공급사들 간의 기자재 공급 및 운영 정비 등에 관한 상호협력 MOU 체결도 진행됐습니다. 웨스팅하우스가 한수원을 상대로 소송을 제기한 것에 관해 야체크 사신 폴란드 부총리는 한수원과 웨스팅하우스의 의견 차이가 있을 뿐이며 기업 간에 충분히 해결이 가능할 것이라고 말하면서 해당 체결이 본계약까지 갈 확률이 100%라고 확신에 차 대답한 바 있습니다. 현재 폴란드 현지에서도 미국에 이어 2단계로 한국과 원전 협력을 맺는 것에 큰 관심을 보이고 있습니다. 이에 관련해 폴란드 현지 방송에서도 한국과 미국의 원전 협력에 관해 전문가들을 초대해 특집 방송을 편성했습니다.
After years of planning, countless expert analyses and extensive diplomatic talks, Poland has signed a contract with an American company to build its first nuclear power plant on the territory of Poland. Just a few days later, Poland and South Korea had signed a letter of intent to build yet another power plant. To learn more about these investments and how they will affect the Polish energy market, what technological opportunities will they bring, we are joined by our guest this evening, Dr. Benjamin L. Schmidt, former energy security advisor at the U.S. Department of State, research associate at Harvard University, senior fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis, and Mr. Adam Juszczak, energy expert at the Polish Economic Institute. Why do you think Poland has chosen two different contractors, one from the US and the other from South Korea? And we also know that these are, well, two quite different technologies involved in these future power plants.
Well, that's right. The deal has gone through for both of these two different facilities. It sounds like Westinghouse will be building a nuclear facility near the Baltic Sea coastline, whereas the Korean firm will be building a set of reactors just south of Warsaw. And I think that this is a reflection of the desire by the Polish government to diversify its nuclear energy technologies as well. We did see in the previous few weeks some legal challenges between Westinghouse and HP because of Westinghouse claiming that there was some proprietary technology from Westinghouse in the Korean reactor design. But nevertheless, Poland seems to have through energy diplomacy, brought these two projects to fruition. And yes, it's going to take several years for these to actually be up and running, but they're very indicative of Poland's future-looking approach, this anticipatory energy diplomacy approach that it's long taken to get out ahead of energy security needs in Europe many years ahead of time. So we've seen the Baltic Pipe project, for example, come online this year. That's been under development for decades, and of course just in time, as Russia has been weaponizing energy openly and cutting off natural gas in particular via Poland earlier this year. So that plus a number of other projects like this really show the extent to which Poland has continued to be a leader in terms of development of energy infrastructure diversification in Europe.
Right. Mr. Juszczak, now I'd like to ask you about the locations of these two power plants. Now, one is to be built by the seaside, and the other, as Dr. Schmidt said, to the center in the center of Poland. Why these two locations?
Well, we have chosen Choczewo as our first location, mainly because it's nearby the sea. So, and it's actually really close to Żarnów, which was Żarnów, which was first nuclear power plant that was tried to be built in Poland. Yes, so basically that is the main reason. And
Yeah, but why is the proximity of sea so important?
Because you require a lot of water to cool the process in nuclear power plant. One of the reasons why the draft in France took place. Well,
right, Mr. Juszak, because it will take a long time to complete these two constructions. So is Poland aiming to become a sort of a regional, power hub, something like that? Because I think that's my prediction that Poland will be able someday to really sell a lot of its energy abroad.
If we add new reactors from KHNP, it would be even more. So basically, we would have 40, maybe 45% of our energy demand met by nuclear energy, which would allow us to, of course, export some of the energy if we would have additional energy from coal, from which would, of course, would be decarbonizing, but there will be still there in a few years, from gas and of course from renewables. If we're talking about the building of nuclear power plants, we should remember that this is the long process. So the first reactor will be up to grid around 2033 if this term is met. Most of the reactors will be in Poland, will be finished. The build will be finished in 2040s and 2030s. Of course, this is a great chance for Poland. So actually, with cooperation with Westinghouse and KHNP, we can also help our neighbors to build nuclear power plants and earn money doing that.
Right. Now, in the end, Dr. Schmidt, I'd like to ask you, do you think that these two investments can actually give a technological boost to Poland?
Well, look, that's absolutely possible. I mean, these are licensed technologies, so it's really going to come down to how the technology transfer and intellectual property sharing rights and who's actually doing the operations and design and build of these projects in the end. But I think that it's certainly feasible to say that that Poland could start to, in collaboration with these companies, build up its competency going forward on civil nuclear. Whether or not that dramatically changes Poland's own domestic role in civil nuclear technologies going forward, that remains to be seen. But there's always a chance for that.
Drought in France made the efficiency of nuclear power plant there a little bit lower.
Mm-hmm. I see. Now, Dr. Schmidt, how big percentage of countries' needs in terms of energy could be covered by these two power plants? Now, Poland counts a bit less than 40 million citizens. So, how many households will get energy from these power plants?
Well, look, these can be significant in terms of providing power to the electricity grid, potentially not only in Poland but beyond, depending on the ultimate scope that is selected for these projects when they go forward. But their project development also shows a recognition of more stable and safer nuclear energy technologies that can be part of the solution going forward to decarbonization. Obviously, it's going to take a long time in terms of their project development process to get them through all of their various stages of feasibility studies and construction, operationalization, and things like this. But nevertheless, the time to plan for making Europe even more energy resilient and even more decarbonized is now. We need to make sure that this continues, and looks like exactly what Poland's focus has been by approaching both an American and South Korean firm in developing these two reactor sites.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Juszak, how do you think this investment will be perceived by Poland's neighbors? And by saying neighbors, I also mean Russia.
Well, I think in Europe, by most of our neighbors, this investment will be perceived as a good sign, because it tells that we are serious about the globalization of our economy. However, there could be some resistance from Germany and Austria, because, as we know, these two countries are rather anti-nuclear in Europe. And in terms of Russia, I think they would, they are not looking good at this investment, but they are not looking at any good at any investment that actually makes Europe less dependent from Russian gas in the future.
and Germany would basically denuclearize, get rid of its civil nuclear technology. And we've seen, because of Russia's energy weaponization, this has been left on the table. These 3 nuclear power plants are sitting in reserve and or going to be continuing to operate for some months now to ensure that Germany's energy security and regional energy security can be ensured as Russia is actively weaponizing gas, making threats, and continuing to create a tight energy market in Europe that will only challenge the energy crisis that Russia's been building up, dating all the way back to the middle of 2021, before its illegal annexation, or its illegal invasion of Ukraine and pushing out from its annexed territory in Crimea and Donbass, et cetera, in February of this year. So, in this wartime scenario, the idea, I think, is very clear that these sort of infrastructure projects need to go forward. They need to go forward fast on what I would call a wartime level of effort. Nevertheless, projects like civil nuclear always take many years, even in the best case scenario. So we'll have to see, to what extent the political winds will support this going forward. But I think it's a tremendous opportunity, again, for Poland to be a leader on ensuring regional and European energy security through its leadership on these sort of projects.
Right. Now, gentlemen, the decision to build a nuclear plant was made under the pressure, actually, from Russia. But I guess when it will be completed in 2033, it will be a totally different world, and we will no more worry.
여러분의 소중한 의견을 남겨주세요. 바쁘시더라도 구독과 좋아요 부탁드립니다. 지금까지 단골이시였습니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다.